All right, so chapter 2 covers the strategic planning process. And I think the main point the authors of the textbook are trying to get to is that marketing is just part of running a business, okay? But it's an important part. It's really the part that helps us find a way to sell the products that we're producing, right? So there's a process that we go through that involves marketing, but it also involves things like production, making the stuff we're going to sell, finance, dealing with the money of the business, and human resources, the people of the business. So it starts with what's called an organizational mission and goals. And then we use that mission and the goals we set to achieve that mission to drive our business unit strategies. And then finally, we do other things like analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of each business unit and of the organization as a whole. And from that, we build our marketing plan, our production plan, our finance plan, and our human resources plan. So for example, we have Eastern Arizona College has a mission and it has goals. The mission of Eastern Arizona College is in essence to make world-class education available to students at the local level. Have we achieved that? Probably not fully. I don't know if it's world-class. I don't know if you're getting an Oxford education here in Southeastern Arizona, but you're getting a solid education. Our students do well when they go on to ASU or BYU or wherever they go from here. And so that's sort of like our high-end goal is we want to make it so a student who comes here gets as good an education as they would get anywhere, okay? But in order to do that, we've recognized that we can't just have good teachers and good classes, because maybe if we hired the very best teachers from everywhere, we couldn't afford it. And or our tuition would have to go up and our students would be able to afford to go here. So we have to have a financial plan based on these goals, okay? We also have our production plan would probably be what's considered our academic plan, right? Our product is academics. And so we have to constantly be saying, how do we know that what we're teaching is the same thing you would get at ASU? And how do we know that our students are learning at the same level that they would there? And so we have a plan in place to do that. And then we have a marketing plan. How do we let students know who we are and why it's worth coming here? What do we focus on? Is it low cost? Is that what students want? Is it beautiful green grass? It's kind of brown right now. And smiling faces, like what is it that we're selling, right? So any organization is going to go through these processes and make a strategic plan. And usually most organizations sort of relook at their strategic plan every 5 to 10 years and say, is this still who we are, right? EAC has been here since 1881, something like that. And so we have to relook at it and say, this was originally created by a bunch of religious pioneers who wanted to make sure their children got an education, right? Is that still what we're doing or not? And the answer was like, no, now it's not just for the children of this little group, it's for the whole community or whatever, right? All right. Oop. All right. So as I mentioned, we start all the way at the top with a mission statement, which gives us a corporate strategy. So the mission statement is like, here's what we want to be. And then the strategy is, okay, here's how we're going to try to be what we want to be. At the college, our business units would probably be our divisions, right? So we have the math division, the business division, the English division, right? So each of us has to sort of build a strategy at our level to say, here's how we're going to try to meet the corporate strategy, or in this case, the college strategy. And so we sort of build from that. And then our marketing strategy, right? How do we want students to see the business division here at EAC? We want you to have confidence that what you learn here is the same thing you'd be learning in the first 2 years of business school anywhere. We want you to feel like your instructors are intelligent, capable people who care about you and are trying to help you. That's our goal. And then we ask ourselves, are we doing that? Okay. And all of these in a more product-oriented business, but even in a service-oriented business, lead us to what's called our marketing mix elements. So what is our product? And how do we package that product? Do we want, at a college, do we want to do 8-week courses or 16-week courses? Online, face-to-face? Do we want a mix of those things? And if so, how do all those fit with our strategy which comes from our business unit strategy, which comes from our corporate strategy, which comes from our vision and our mission statement at the top. Okay. Distribution, how do we get it to people? Maybe that's the online versus the face-to-face to should we have classes at Morenci High School or whatever. Promotion, how do we make people aware of it? In the springtime, you know what I do? And I don't love it. I go out and visit the high schools, right? And talk to the seniors and say, how many of you are thinking about studying business? And we talk about it. And then finally, our price. Do we want to set our price so that we're competing against other schools, like so that we're the cheapest one? Or do we want to set our price a little higher than that and explain to people why it's higher? Because if you think about it, isn't that what Harvard does? They set their price high, but then they say, but they have this sort of history of quality and not all of that, that makes you think, oh, well, if you want the best education in the world, you have to pay for it or whatever. You know, think about the products you use. Anybody have a product where they buy the cheapest of it because it doesn't really matter to them? What is it? Flour. Okay, yeah, the Great Value Walmart brand is good enough, right? Because I can bake some bread with that. It won't be any different than fancy flour. Does anybody have a product that you're very brand specific about, that you like a certain brand? Condition. Okay. Most women in hair products are like, I have 1 or 2 brands I'll use and that's it, right? My wife, I'll go to the store and she'll be like, get some shampoo and conditioner, and I'll be like, because to me, I don't care. I'll wash my head with a bar soap. But you know, but she doesn't want the most expensive either. So she's like, she said there's 2 mid-level brands that work for her hair, and you can get Aussie or Garnier, Fructis, that one. She's like, those will work for me, but not be too expensive, right? Anybody have like a high-end product that you like, either you only will use it or you aspire to be like, I want one of those, or that would be that it's worth it to pay more for it because of something? It's quality, it's, I don't know, it's like a Coach handbag, kind of like that. Like even people who don't have a fancy handbag but like them might want one or something. Maybe Apple, maybe like the iPhone is kind of more expensive than other phones, right? You're willing to pay extra. Okay. So we don't have to all set our prices the same, but if our price is more than our competitors, we better be prepared to explain to the customer through marketing or promotion why it's worth more, or at least demonstrate it. All right. So a lot of times what we use as a business to evaluate where our products are is what's called a market growth or market share matrix. And on that matrix, our products fall into 4 categories: stars, cash cows, dogs, and question marks. That's the names they use. A star is a product that has, so let me explain market share and market growth first. So some markets, remember a market is like a group that we sell to, okay? Some markets are growing, buying more of the product. We haven't fully tapped out what that market can do, okay? And so that's what market growth means, is how growth oriented is this market? Is it a market that's pretty much, we'd say, saturated, meaning it's going to buy it's buying what it could buy, right? Maybe that would be, I don't know, the bottled water market. Like this, it's hard to imagine some innovation that's going to change how much bottled water people buy. Maybe, I don't know, but and then we have market share, which is how much does a given product own of that market. So maybe a good example of that would be like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has something like, if just the brand Coca-Cola, not even all its other brands it owns, just the brand Coca-Cola accounts for like 30% of all soft drink sales. Okay, so you would say they have a 30% market share. They own about 30% of the soft drink market. Okay, which is interesting because when they do taste tests, more people say they like Pepsi than Coke, and yet Coke still outsells Pepsi. I guess because we're comfortable with it. It's kind of like McDonald's, right? Nobody loves it, but when you're like, I don't want to have to think about it, I know exactly what to expect. It's consistent. We sometimes buy McDonald's anyway, even though it's not our favorite thing. Although some things there are pretty good. Spicy chicken, it's always good. All right. So stars, They dominant share of market, good spot prospects for growth, but growth usually costs money. And so stars are using more cash than they generate usually. It's this product that's like on the rise, okay? As opposed to cash cows, they have a dominant share of the market, but they have low prospects for growth. There's your Coca-Cola, right? They own a lot of it, but they're probably not going to grow much. Now, recognize Coca-Cola doesn't just own Coca-Cola. They own a whole bunch of soft drinks. They also own Dasani water and a number of other things. That probably one of the energy brands, I don't know which one, but probably belongs to Coca-Cola bottling company. Then you have dogs. They don't have the big share of the market and they have low prospects for growth. That's why they're dogs. Kick them to the curb. No, be nice to your dogs, right? And finally, question marks. They have a small share of a growing market. So they're in a growing market, but they don't have the big share yet. So they're like, are they worth investing more into? So if you see it on a matrix, it looks like this. So we have a relative market share, high, low, and our product related growth, high, low, right? So the star is high, high, cash cow, high, low. So really what we want to do is balance our cash cows, the ones that are making money for us right now, because we're not trying to have to grow them much anymore. They're just selling and they're in a good market, with our stars, the ones that we're hoping will sort of take the place of the cash cows in the growing market in the future. Does that make sense? And minimize the number of dogs we have and then sort of be careful about question marks, right? Doesn't mean we don't ever go after them, but you can't invest a ton of money into developing something if you don't have some cash cows to fund it. That's the idea, okay? We want to turn a question mark into a star. And again, stars kind of become cash cows over time. As the market matures, then you don't have to put all this money into it anymore. You just keep selling it. All right. So that's kind of what I just said, right? Long-term health of the organization depends on having some products that generate cash and others that use cash to support growth. It's hard to grow, and you can't really, I mean, maybe you could have a company that just has one product and you just live forever on it, but that's tough. Think of like Freeport-McMoRan. How many of you are from around here, like grew up here? So Freeport-McMoRan is a copper and gold mining company. They mine copper, gold, and molybdenum, which is another metal, okay? And that's it. So if you've lived here very long, like if you're old like me, you know that mine has gone through cycles of boom where they hire and hire and hire people, and then downturns when there's not enough jobs for everybody. And they're completely at the whim of the price of copper. So when the copper market's hot and copper goes up to $4 or more a pound, they just hire because they want to produce as much copper as they can. And when the copper market dips, they lay people off. And then our community is like, we don't have jobs for all these people, right? And so we want to keep some balance. What's hard about their business is, although gold has been at an all-time high for a long time, gold's way up there. So, but it would be great if they could be more diversified. But what they do is kind of a specialized thing, right? Digging ore out of the ground and getting the metal out of it. All right. All right, so what we need to do then is make some competitive growth strategies. There's kind of 4 different types of strategies that most businesses go with. First is called a market penetration strategy. That's where if we're already existing in a market, we try to dig deeper into it, right? Penetrate deeper into that market and increase our market share, okay? The second is called a market development strategy. This is where we try to take our product, say that's strong in this market, and extend it into a new market. Maybe we, maybe when I talked about like the baking soda, right? It was great in the cooking market. Can we make it useful in toothpaste and health and beauty aids market? We're going to develop this product into other things. Okay. Also, it sometimes means developing it into, say, a foreign place market, Like, what can we do to get into China? Do they need baking soda there? Some of the tobacco companies early on, they made it part of their market development strategy to give away free cigarettes to children in China to penetrate into the Chinese, or to develop the Chinese market and get them addicted to tobacco and then get them accustomed to their brand. Most of us would think that's pretty unethical, right? It's pretty crappy. But that's what they do. They'd go to arcades and other places kids hung out and give out free cigarettes. So probably, maybe they got rich, but they'll probably burn in hell. I don't know. You're like, unless they're not religious. Everybody got all quiet, like burn in hell. That got serious. That escalated super quickly. No, it just seems like a really horrible thing to do, right? Product development strategy is where we increase the sales by improving present products and developing new products for current markets. So that was probably a better example for my baking soda, actually, right? Where we say, okay, we have a product using this, and now we're going to develop additional products. And then finally, diversification, where we start to branch into other products. Maybe a company like Freeport-McMoRan, I'll give you a good example, Apple, right? They make technology products. You have our iPhones and our iWatches, and now you have the Apple Card, which is a financial services thing, right? So they're making money now by lending you money, in essence, to buy stuff too. So they've diversified out of just technology and into the financial sector as well. Anyway, so there's kind of a matrix of the competitive growth strategies. I wish they wouldn't use present. I like existing works better. So I have an existing market and an existing product. I'm going to try to penetrate that market deeper. That's what market penetration is. An existing market with a new product, that's product development. A new market with an existing product, market development. And new is diversification. We're branching into something new, a new market with new, yeah, so maybe you could argue financial services isn't new for Apple, but I think they're trying to make it different. Anybody use the Apple Card? I like it. I have one on my iPhone, you know. What I like, have you ever had like a credit card that gives you cash back, like if you make purchases? Well, the way theirs does it is if I make a purchase on that card, like I paid for my son's surgery the other day, it automatically same day takes that cash back and just puts it on my little Apple Card. So I can, you know, instead of having to wait and cash it in. So that is a little bit different. They tried something new. I don't know. We'll see how it works. All right. So we're going to try to figure out if Coca-Cola, Sprite Zero, High C juice drink, and Dasani bottled water are stars, cash cows, dogs, or question marks. All right, so we have Coca-Cola, we have Sprite Zero, we have High C, and Dasani. Just so you know, those are all products of the same corporation, the Coca-Cola Corporation. All right, so let's go back a little and take a look at our definitions of stars, cash cows, dogs, and question marks. Talk to your neighbor, buddy, who whatever you call them, your friend, and you come up with an answer for each one of these 4 products, and then we'll talk about it. Do it quick, like 1 minute. I don't know about that one. I don't even know what the market share for bottled water is. All right, so I was just curious about that. So what do you think? What about Coca-Cola? Can we all agree on that one? What do you think it is? You think it's a star? You think it's still a growing market? I'm not saying you're wrong. I think there's room for debate. In my mind, I was thinking cash cow, just because I think it's a very mature market and they're owning that market and they're making tons of money. And although they do spend a lot on uh, on marketing and advertising still, right? Super Bowl ads and all sorts of stuff. So, but for sure, it's one of those two, right? And I like anybody think it was one of the other two? Would you guys come? Do you guys think cash cow, or did you think it was a star? Right. Okay. They're constantly battling for that share, right? Yeah. Okay, good. How about Sprite Zero? I would say all the zero sodas that are coming out now, right? As opposed to like the diet sodas, they're like they've done something where I feel like they're trying to expand that market. Is there anybody here who didn't like diet soda but will drink a zero? Yeah, you think they're better than Diet Coke? Okay. What's that? Yeah, I'll wait till you get old and fat. Then you're like, okay, I got to cut calories out somewhere. You think it tastes worse or it's yeah, there's no data on that. There's just opinions, right? But anyway, I don't disagree with you though, that like we have all this data on sugar, but like it seems like you can't, do you remember they had those, I don't know if you guys remember, they had these chips that like you could eat and like they had this stuff in them that would like bind with the fat and then like it would like be kind of fat free, but seriously, it would make people's like stool like oily. So it would like bind with it and come out in your poop. And you're like, there's something not right about that, right? Like you can't eat junky food and it not be junky, or else there's probably some other chemicals going on. And that's the fear with diet sodas, right? Anyway, so where do you think? Do you think just what do you think? Yeah, Sprite Zero. Are they here? They have a small share of a growing market. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how if is the zero calorie market continuing to grow. Wonder what the biggest zero calorie drink is. Coke Zero, probably. Right. Okay. High C, still there. Like you get size on the spigot, right? Do you love it? Yeah, my wife mixes it with like high C and like Sprite or um so I don't know if they're a dog. Like I don't know if they're losing money or not, but they certainly have subordinate share of the market. If you were to think of all soft drinks, high C is not on the dominant share of it. Now, maybe of like non-carbonated drinks, I depend on how narrow of a market you're looking at, right? But I'd say it's either a dog or a question mark, and it's not a growing market, so it's probably a dog. But you can still have dogs that are profitable. In other words, like there's not a lot of competition either. So it's just you're putting it out there, and it's just another option you offer at the place. Can you buy like high C like in a can or a bottle, or is it just in fountains? Well, yeah. Okay, that's true. You get a juice box of it. And finally, Dasani water. So I was just curious what their market share was. And it looks like private label owns about 25% of the market share in bottled water, which means all of these other small companies, in essence, that aren't Coca-Cola or PepsiCo. And then we have Aquafina, that I think is owned by Pepsi, and Dasani, which is owned by. So I'd say they have a pretty competitive position in that market. Do you think the bottled water market is growing, or is it, you think it's going down? Oh yeah, that's true, huh? Because everybody's like, just drink tap water. And you're like, but you got me used to bottled water. Right. And even like the colleges put in the little filling stations, right? And you see that happening more and more. So yeah, maybe it's a declining market. I don't know that. I don't have data for that. But so if it's a declining market, then yeah, I don't know exactly what it is. So Dasani, I would say, I don't think it's a dog, and if it is, it's a profitable dog. It's still making money. Or it might be a cash cow, right? Because I don't think it has a subordinate share. It's just making money in a market that's doesn't have any prospects for growth. That's probably how I'd put that. So recognize that when we're trying to identify where our products fit on this matrix, it is not like a nice, clean, tidy thing where you can just be like, oh, it's definitely that. Sometimes you could have a product that you're like clearly, but there's a lot of gray. And that's how most marketing is. So it's hard for people like me who have more like accountant brains, who I like things to fit nicely into categories, when we are having to use a fair amount of discretion to say, where does this fit? And then how does that affect our strategy, right? And so business is interesting, right? Because you can get a bachelor's degree in arts, which focuses on arts, non-empirical things. You can get a bachelor's degree in science, which focuses on empirical things, where you can measure. That's what empirical means. You can measure with numbers and things like that. Or you can get a bachelor's degree of business administration. It's like neither in the arts nor the sciences. And that's because it's its own thing. We have portions of business that are very much scientific. We even think in terms of scientific method. We come up with hypotheses and means of measuring those hypotheses and then test the hypotheses. And then we have sides of it that are very art oriented, and especially in the marketing side, and especially in the advertising and those sorts of sides, where you have people using data but also saying, how do we appeal to people's feelings and needs? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So since I'm recording, I'm just going to repeat your question so the people on the recording can hear. He said, how does knowing or having an idea of where your product fits into these categories, how does that change what you do from a marketing standpoint? So a couple of things. If we've got a cash cow, that usually allows us to not put as much time and energy and money into marketing it. It's making money. We have to maintain its position as a brand that people want so that people will buy it. But then we can use that money to fund, say, a star, which is in this growing market. And that just takes more money. We've got to get more advertising out there. We've got to push it out to places that maybe we wouldn't normally. And so it just lets you know, like, relative to other things, how much time and energy and money you need to put into certain things. Whereas looks like a question mark, then what that's saying, if we rate it there, we're going to say, let's have a serious discussion about whether or not it's worth further investment or not. And so that's the idea behind it. What's hard is, like I was saying, it's not always so cut and dry. So in the end, you still have to sort of have a serious conversation all the time about what you're doing. All right. So again, the strategic planning process, remember, that's what this whole chapter is about. Involves us sort of looking at the marketing environment and figuring out how we fit within it and how we want our products and ourselves to be seen and what we want to do. So there's a few, I won't read all these to you, but these are just terms that we'll need to know. Again, we do these here at EAC, core competencies. What are the things we do really well, as opposed to the things that we need to improve upon, right? I don't know if we're delusional. We typically think that our people is something. We have a lot of really good teachers who are passionate about what they do and they're excited about it. But we also know we've got some teachers who are less excited and passionate about what they do, right? That it's pretty hard to have everybody be perfect. And then the other one I'll highlight here is a competitive advantage. So a competitive advantage is the result of matching a core competency, something we do really well, with an opportunity, right? So if we identify that we do something well, and we identify that the market out there needs something, we can match those up, that's going to create a competitive advantage. Okay. How many of you have heard of a SWOT analysis? I mean, probably in a high school business class or in another college class or something. So SWOT, S-W-O-T, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so one of the things that you'll see on any marketing plan and in any business plan is a SWOT analysis. And really, I think there should be a line drawn, like a hard line between strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats, because strengths and weaknesses are internal. So think of yourself, you have strengths, things you're really good at, things you're capable about, things maybe you've learned, and you have weaknesses, areas where you know you haven't learned much there or that are hard for you. Like I'm pretty good with Excel, that's a strength, but I suck at drawing. That's one of my weaknesses. So I married an artist. Aha, I brought a strength into the family, right? She sucks at Excel. Actually, she's not bad at Excel. So those are internal. And then opportunities and threats are external, right? So an opportunity might be that there's a company looking for a bookkeeper. Well, my strength that I'm good at Excel, and my other strength, I'm good at QuickBooks, and my other strength that I've got 20 years experience doing accounting work might make it so it'd be easier for me to take advantage of that opportunity than for my wife, who's really good at painting pictures, but doesn't have any accounting experience. Does that make sense? So just recognize strengths and weaknesses, internal, opportunities and threats, external. So opportunities is what it sounds like, things that might be a positive thing on the outside, and threats are things that could be negative. Recognize that these can come from all sorts of different areas, right? Even like a change in law, the legalizing of marijuana was an opportunity for somebody, right? Somebody said, hey, I could sell that now and not have to worry about going to jail. I'm really good at growing weed. It's a strength, right? Or whatever. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Our goal, you can't always do this, is to match our strengths with the opportunities that are out there. And they say that we want to convert threats into opportunities. That's awesome when you can do that. But a lot of times, because they're external, it's pretty hard to have a lot of influence over that. Okay. But if, say, the law changes, let's say that they, if I'm let's say I'm a cosmetologist, right? I cut people's hair. I know all of those skills, color, perms, nails, I can do it all. Right now, the legal environment says you have to be licensed to be a cosmetologist in the state of Arizona. So that is actually an opportunity for me as a licensed cosmetologist, in the sense that it limits the amount of competition I can have, right? They have to go through a whole process to get licensed, just like I did. What if the state of Arizona tomorrow lifted that and said, no more licensure required. Anybody can cut hair and do all things that cosmetologists could do? I would see that as a threat, right? That legal change would now be a threat because anybody could compete with me. And so how could I convert that threat into an opportunity? What do you think? Okay. So you could point out the fact, show the value that comes from you being licensed, even though it's not required. Because so now in your advertising, you could be like, don't get caught like these people did. Come to someone who knows what they're doing. Maybe that's one way to try to convert that threat into an opportunity. Maybe another would be to say, even though you don't have to be licensed, you still have to know what you're doing. I'm going to run an apprenticeship program, and now you can have people pay you to come learn from you or something. And maybe you don't have to make it as stringent as the state requirements. I mean, there's ways, right? So that's what they're saying. If you can't turn a threat into an opportunity, at the very least, you would like to address the threat, right? So if a legal requirement changes, maybe it's as simple as buying insurance so that, I don't get financially hurt if something bad happens. Who knows? So you have to look at the threats, convert what you can to an opportunity, and what you can't, address it. Same with weaknesses. If you can convert a weakness to a strength, great. But you can't always, or sometimes you could, but it's too costly in time or money or energy. And so instead, you just prepare for that, right? Anyway, so that's the idea behind SWOT analysis. And there's a ton of value in it. If you have a product and you actually want to do something with it, looking really hard at yourself and actually getting other people to also tell you what your strengths and weaknesses are. People who will be honest to you, which is sometimes hard to find. All right. So there's a couple concepts here in addition. So we're still on assessing organizational opportunities and resources, which is all part of the marketing and strategic planning. Okay. And they're called first mover advantage and late mover advantage. So from its name, you can tell that first mover advantage means the advantage you gain if you move early into a market. Okay. So it gives you advantages like you're the market leader. You jump into a market that doesn't have much competition yet, etc. You can read those. But there's also risks, right? Like you have to spend all this money on research and development because you're building this new market. And it's pretty easy once you put all that money into building up the market for others to kind of come in behind you and sell a cheaper version. And they can sell it cheaper because they didn't have to put all the money into research and development. You see this a lot with technology, right? You could go on like Amazon right now and buy like cheap versions of an Apple Watch that are actually pretty good. Like in the sense that like before I ever had an Apple Watch, because I wanted to see if I was willing to spend that kind of money on one, I bought like a cheapo version, like a $40 one that did just a few things, like measured my steps as I walked. And I thought, oh, I'll actually use this. And then I finally got an Apple Watch, right? But for a lot of people, it's good enough. And so Apple spent billions of dollars developing their products, and then people step in behind them and make maybe inferior products, but ones that a lot of people are cool with, and they can sell them for $100 instead of $1,000. See, that's the new Apple Watch coming out now, $1,000. That's a little crazy. It better do magic for $1,000. All right, and then late mover advantage. So you can benefit from the first mover's mistakes and improve on the product design, right? This is also called late child advantage. If you weren't the oldest, you can see how your older sibling pissed off your parents and learn how to navigate better like that. We've seen that in our family. Our poor oldest kid is like a guinea pig. And now our baby, smooth sailing for him. Easy. Has lower initial investment costs. So kind of like the opposite, right? The disadvantages of the first movers are the advantages of the late movers and vice versa. Disadvantage is you're going to be coming to a market where someone else already has the dominant position and you have to sort of be seen in the middle of all that. If I wanted to start a new car company, it'd be very hard to get seen unless I did something really extravagant. You know, cue Elon Musk, right? I'll send a Tesla to freaking space, right? That's why he's like that, because he's competing in a tough market and because I think he's a little off. But he's an interesting character. All right, we don't have much time, so we won't get to do this. But in essence, what we would do, assume we're opening an organic farm to table restaurant, do SWOT analysis, and then we have each of these statements, right? So we'll just do a couple of them. Eating fresh local food seems to be a rising popularity in the United States. So how would you classify that? Strength, a weakness, an opportunity? No. Strength, weakness, or an opportunity or a threat? It's an opportunity, right? It's external to the company and provides something that they can, we don't like the word, but we can exploit. it's a mean sounding word. How about more and more people are viewing GMOs, genetically modified foods, as unhealthy? Opportunity, right? Something we can take advantage of. Your recipes are unique and hard to copy. That's a strength. That's internal, belongs to you, and it's something that can help you compete in this market. You get I just want to make sure you understand the difference between strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. All right, a few more things to get through here. So once we've kind of looked at all of these things, we're ready to make a marketing objective, a statement of what we want to accomplish through our marketing activities. In order to do that, we want to have a good, careful study of our SWOT analysis, right? We're going to match our strengths to our weaknesses, eliminate the weaknesses we can, minimize threats, etc. Okay. We also want these marketing objectives to be specific and measurable. They're like goals. Okay. And so these are the things that we're actually going to now go do, and we can measure, have we successfully done them or not? Okay. So this all started with this sort of like vision level and then we make goals, and then we get onto the marketing, and then we did a SWOT analysis to really look hard at our marketing, and now we're going to make marketing objectives. Here's the things we're going to do with our marketing that are going to help us accomplish all of these things. We also need to select a target market. Sometimes target market is sort of chosen for us because a lot of times people start with a product, and so we ask ourselves who would use this product, right? The most common problem I see from students, especially who are learning to do this, is they set their target market too broad. They're afraid of not being inclusive, I guess. And so what they do is they're just like, everybody is my target market. Well, kind of. It's true. I'll be happy to take anybody's money who wants to buy my product. That's true. Okay. But target market isn't about who might buy my product. It's about who I should focus my marketing activities toward. And so if your idea is everybody, that's going to be too broad, and it's going to be too expensive to try to make advertisements for everybody and make product features that appeal to everybody. And so we narrow it, not for the purpose of saying you can't get my product, but for the purpose of saying, where am I going to focus my energy? Okay. So that's an important differentiation. Once we know who our target market is, then we can develop our marketing mix, right? So I'll give you like one brief example. You know, baby food. Who's a target market for baby food? It's not babies? No, it's mothers, right? They got, I mean, it could be dads. Dads probably feed their babies too. But honestly, who's going to be making the baby food buying decision most likely? Probably mom. Okay, not always, but, and again, do we welcome all dads who want to buy baby food for their babies? Yes. Again, this is how are we making our ads? Has anybody seen baby food? Like, it's been a long time since I had babies, and now I have grandkids. And so like my daughter gets this thing, and instead of it being like in a baby food jar, which is what it always was when I was a dad, and then they got the ones that you can like the peel off ones, now it's in like a little pouch, and you just take the top off, and like it has a little spoon built in, and you squeeze it onto the spoon and give it to the baby and squeeze it. And it's so easy and so clean. And I'm like, it just feels wrong. It's so easy. And my granddaughter will now she wants you to take the spoon off, and she'll just like suck it down. That can't be healthy. Did you like the noise? I wonder how it came through on the recording. They're going to be like, what was that? So the point is, someone thought we need to make it even easier for moms to feed these babies, right? Nothing to clean up, no mess, nothing breakable, easy to store. They came up with these little pouches, and they come like 6 to a box, and they stand up nicely. And you just put them on the shelf. That's pretty cool. So they reckon, but someone else might be like, no, anybody who has a baby could be our target market. That's true, but we know that moms probably make those decisions most of the time. And that's why on a commercial for baby food, it's not going to be like some brawny dad, like, I feed my baby. It's going to be like, you feed your baby that? Ew, you're a bad mom, right? It's always about shaming women. Have you noticed that? Most ads. It's pretty horrible, actually. I use Clorox Clean Wipes because I love my family, unlike you, like that. All right. And then we create our market mix. Like I said, we talked about market mix already: product, price, distribution, and promotion. And then the idea, some organizations like to have what's called a centralized organization, which is like how you think of old school businesses, which are highly structured from the top, and the top then sends out instructions and tells everybody what to do. But more and more businesses are moving to what's called a decentralized organization. And this isn't new. This has been going on for the last 50 years, where the idea is we're going to give much of the decision-making authority to the units themselves. Walmart is somewhere in the middle of this. They're still very centralized, but they allow store managers to have some discretion so that they can adjust prices on certain products at the local level, depending on the competitive needs there. So there's an example. All right, and I think the last thing we need to look at here is, after we have made our plan and then made our objectives, and now we're doing our objectives, we need to analyze and see how successfully we are accomplishing these objectives. And so in essence, we are going to compare our actual performance, how we've done, against our performance standards, meaning the goals we set for ourselves. And this is kind of obvious and dumb, but it's like when actual performance exceeds performance standards, We need to figure out, well, why? Like, how were we able to beat our goals, and how do we replicate that and keep doing that, right? Or the opposite, when it doesn't exceed, when our actual performance does not meet the standards, then we have to figure out, well, why? Do we make too high of a goal? Is there some issue? What can we do about it? And so again, that's pretty obvious, but you'd be surprised how often real businesses sort of miss that last step of analyzing and saying, okay, we set all these goals. Why did we make them or not make them? And what do we do to improve? That often gets missed. And then a marketing plan, we'll do more on that later, but it's a written document that specifies the activities that we are going to perform. So all of this I've been talking about is lined out in a marketing plan. And that's all the components, which we don't have time for, but it's okay. All right. I know it's a lot to cover, but that's what happens in a short-term class. We try to cover a lot fast. So on Monday, like I said, we'll be doing a little activity that involves this. That'll be part of your grade. So I hope to see you here Monday. Okay. Have a great weekend.